So, the next official hackathon of Solana Foundation was released, HYPERDRIVE, and it already started. So, in today's video I want to give you 5 tips for how you can make the best of this hackathon. And by making the best, I mean just some tips of how I would go about this hackathon. Some of them you might have heard before, some of them might be controversial, and all of them are just my opinion. So you can take it or leave it. I'm just trying to be helpful. If I'm not helpful, then that's okay. Let's get started. Tip number 1. Don't focus on winning. Hold on, don't focus on winning, don't focus on being perfect, but have a straight camera. Don't focus on winning. And what I mean by that is, if you think that you need to win, then you're basically already lost, because it just opens you up for failure. Best case, you reach your target, but average case, you're just gonna not win. Because even though there are quite a lot of prizes, not everybody wins. At least not a money prize. $1 million in prizes and seed funding, which is not quite the same, but $1 million just sounds nicer, right? If we can say $1 million worth of. But that funding is actually more of a loan we don't talk about. Anyway, so yes, you might win something, but don't do it with the expectation that you're gonna win something. You can win other things like experience, connections, or just a good time, but you might not win one of those prizes. And if you rely on winning a prize, then you're probably, in investing I would say overexposed. You're overexposed to this hackathon if you rely on it to go up, right? If you rely on it to make money, then you're putting too many eggs in the hackathon basket. Basically what I'm saying is, don't quit your job to participate in the hackathon unless you can sustain yourself for a while. Because if you rely on winning, then that forces you to make decisions that might be good for short term, but bad for long term. Because your goal is to short term win this hackathon. And that's just not the right way to go about it, in my opinion. So don't focus on winning, but rather, tip number 2, focus on having fun. Now this is easier said than done, rhymey rhyme, but my idea here is build something that you enjoy to build. Admittedly, probably the most difficult thing to do is coming up with the topic, coming up with what do I want to build for this hackathon. And there what's really helpful for me is, well, what's fun for me? What would I really like to build? Because if I enjoy building it, then I'll have way more motivation than if I try to build something that somebody else said was a good idea to build and I just build it to build it. You need to have the drive for hyperdrive to really want to build this. Because only if you really want to build it, you will actually build it properly. And you'll think about it all the time and you'll be like, oh, that's something I can improve and this is a great idea and we can do that as well. And that being said, don't put too many features in, but that's a different tip. Actually, let's put it right here. I can say that already. Doesn't mean that you need to do all of those things for the hackathon, but it allows you to stay on it, to stay on the topic and keep building it even after the hackathon ends. And essentially that's what we want, right? The hackathon shouldn't be okay, it's done, let's drop this project. But it should be a starting point for you to get started on a project that you might eventually build out to a real nice product. So finding something where you're really interested and where you think that building that could actually be fun for you. That's the right thing. Now for tip number 3, I'm gonna give you some things that might not be the right thing to build. Basically, anything that does already exist. For instance, an NFT marketplace. That stuff already exists. You might not want to build that again. Even though you think you could add that one feature that would make all the difference, difficult. That market seems pretty saturated. And it's not just NFT marketplaces, there are several. examples. So does it already exist on Solana? If so, don't build it. Does it exist on some other chain? Does it exist on Ethereum? Then probably you also don't want to build that. Yes, Solana gives you advantages, but if it's working on EVM, then it's probably not a use case that really makes use of the technical advantages that we have here. Also, if it already exists in the real world and it's a working product, there's no real need for you to put it on chain. What's the point of putting something on chain if it works off chain? Like all this Reddit, but on chain. A restaurant, but on chain. I mean, wouldn't even know how that would work, but what was like, I don't get it. So really focus on the things that are, wait, let's go for a walk. Let's go. Ba-da-dum bam 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 ba-dee-ba-dee-ba ba-da-dum bam 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 ba-dee-doo ba-da-dum bam 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 ba-dee-dee-dee da-da-da bam bam bam. Only possible on Solana. Whew. A walk, I said. It was a run. Focus on the things that are only possible on Solana. You know, take advantage of all the cool stuff that we have on Solana, like compression for minting a bunch of NFTs, or use cases that require really fast finality. Solana has cool tech, and that opens up for new use cases, and that's what you want to explore. You want to do stuff that is only possible on Solana, because the rest has already been done. Or it doesn't help that you use Solana. Your restaurant, you better build it in real life. Let's be honest. I wouldn't go eat on Solana. Okay, point made. Back upstairs. So really focus on the things that are only possible on Solana, or might also be possible on, you know, other fast L2s or whatever. But it just choose Solana, even though it's also possible somewhere else. That's fair enough. So it doesn't need to only be possible on Solana. But the chain should give you some advantages. Like putting stuff on chain should give you an actual edge over something that is off chain. Because Web 2 has a bunch of products already. And blockchain allows for new use cases. And that's what you want to explore, in my opinion. Again, you can do whatever you want. Think about it and build something new. Tip number 4, related. When you think of what you build, think about the user. And I also often get this wrong or don't do it. I'm like, oh, the tech is super cool, we can build that. Without actually thinking, well, who would actually use that except for myself? And I'm like this super power user. It's really just playing around with the tech that I'm doing. Ideally, you would think of, first of all, who is gonna use your product. So what's your target group? And then what issue do they have that you can actually solve with your product? Why would regular users actually care? And it's okay to build a niche product, but then you need to be aware that you're building this for that niche. And you should know about what the problems of those people are and how you can actually fix them. So yeah, think about it. What is the value add that you have? And no, it being on-chain is not a value add, as we discussed in the previous point, because users don't care where the data is stored. You as a dev care because it could give you advantages that stuff is on-chain as compared to in the cloud or on your server. So you care about that, but you want to think about the user. And the last tip I have for you, number 5, probably the most important for this particular hackathon, focus on the concept. What I mean by that is that most of the effort should be put into really exploring why this product is useful. It's more of a business thing than it is a developer's thing. You want to really be able to present why that product should receive funding, because that's essentially what we're playing for here in this hackathon. Yes, I said in the beginning that you shouldn't focus on that, but ultimately you do want to increase your chances of winning. It's not that you actively want to make yourself lose. So my tip for winning is focus on the product, like the idea of your product, not the actual implementation of the product. Different things. Now, in the early hackathons, people could win simply by presenting the idea. In the current hackathons, I don't think that that is enough, unless the idea is really important and cool and whatever. But I would argue that you need both the good idea and a proof of concept. Now, a proof of concept really should be an MVP, minimal viable product, which means you only want to put in as much dev work as it requires to demonstrate that your idea actually works and to demonstrate that you could actually build it. Because that's what VCs are looking for, a team that can actually execute on their idea. Because having the idea is not enough, you actually need to have the team that can actually pull it off. And by building something already, that shows that you can do it. You don't need to have all of the features yet. Definitely not. In fact, you probably want to hold back on feature development and really just focus on the core idea and then on the presentation of that idea. Because the presentation is probably the most important thing to win at the hackathon. It doesn't matter what you actually hacked, if your presentation is bad, nobody's gonna care. And I can tell you that from personal experience when I was judging the demo day and other things, but that's a Solana event that I judged, there will be a lot of submissions. And the judges will have to look through a lot. So they will not have a lot of time to spend on each single project, which means your project needs to stand out. And the one thing that the judges look at, well, is the overall presentation of the product. They won't go through the source code and check how well implemented that is. Some of them might look through, but they're not gonna judge based on your source code. No, they're gonna judge based on your presentation. So the presentation is what you want to focus on. And if you're not the guy who can present, like me standing in front of the camera and talking about the things that I enjoy and why my product is so great, then get yourself somebody who can do that. Tell them why your idea is so cool and have them present it. Presentation is really important. And there I have a bonus tip for you. If you don't have the skills for something like presentation or the coding part, maybe you're a marketer or a business guy, get yourself someone who has those skills. Find the people to build a team with to submit together, such that you can cover all of those things. So for all of the devs out there, that's usually the people watching my videos, I know that development is fun, but for a hackathon, we need some more. We need a good concept and a good presentation. And if you don't want to do that part, find somebody who can do that part with you. That was my last tip. Of course I could, repeat what other people said, like it's probably a good idea to create a Twitter account early and get users interacting with you or your protocol as soon as possible. Because if you already have a following, then that means that there really is something that users are interested in. So that comes back to the focus on the user. Or what else are common tips? If you build something, tag the people from Foundation to get exposure. Or tag me and be like, thanks to this guy, I built this cool product. And then I'll retweet it. And boom, you got a tiny bit of exposure. So yeah, those are my tips for the HYPERDRIVE Hackathon. I wish you good luck in building. If you need any help with resources for the actual development stuff, which is just a part of what you want to do for this hackathon, I can put some links in the description, like the Solana cookbook, Solana docs. If you like videos, you can watch them. I've got a bunch here. If you have any questions, go to the Stack Exchange. There will also be stuff happening at the HYPERDRIVE Discord, office hours and stuff. Yeah, we want to make it easy for people to build stuff. And by now there are many resources out there. And as I said, building a cool product is just part of it all. But it is also my favorite part. So if you have any questions or need help with anything, let me know and I'll see what I can do. Maybe it's just about connecting you with the right people or the right video. And that's it from me. If you enjoyed my tips, like and subscribe, watch other videos that are more technical, and I'm looking forward to what you build for the HYPERDRIVE Hackathon.